Welcome, everyone. It's January 26th, 7:07 p.m. All trustees are present, including our students, Lucy from Los Altos High and Claire from Mountain View High School. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, next we have approval of the meeting agenda. Would anyone like to?
I move that we approve the agenda.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Moved by Catherine, seconded by Esme. Claire, how do you vote?
I approve.
Lucy, how do you vote?
I approve.
Board, all in favor?
Aye.
That's 5-0. Okay, next I have to report out on action taken in closed session. A majority or the board unanimously voted to approve a compromise agreement with the parents of a student to resolve potential and threatened claims. School year, not exceed $130,000. And next, we have a legal announcement that this open session is obviously. So next, we move on to 17 code. Communications, we have our student.
Okay. Hello, everyone. We have just completed the first month of the semester, and campus life at Mountain View has remained busy and engaging for staff, teachers, and student organizations as always. Following a restful 3-day weekend, MVHS hosted another successful advisory week. Freshmen, sophomores, and juniors explored course options for next year through tutorials and lunchtime events, while seniors gathered for their first graduation-related events of the second semester, including a panoramic photo on the grass and a meeting in regards to graduation requirements. At the same time, we welcomed the incoming class of 2030 during 8th grade parent night this past Thursday. Even with multiple events happening across campus as always, including wrestling senior night and a varsity soccer game, parent night ran smoothly and reflected the energy of a campus alive with activity, offering families tech support, school tours, student-led panels, and opportunities to explore art and elective programs. This week also features one of ASB's most anticipated events, Culture Week. We begin with a lively rally that some students described as their favorite rally of the year, highlighting performances from clubs, student groups, teachers, and solo performers. Daily lunchtime activities continue the celebration, including a cultural scavenger hunt, National Sports Day, and an arts and live music showcase in the main quad. The week concludes on Saturday with Winter Ball in the auxiliary gym, giving students a chance to connect, dance, and unwind together. Finally, student groups and activities remain active, with choir beginning ticket sales this week for their beloved Singing Valentine's tradition, bringing music and joy across campus, and the athletics community transitioning from winter to spring sports, with registrations and information sessions preparing students for the upcoming season. Thank you for your continued time and support.
Good evening, members of the board. Thank you for the opportunity to share some highlights from student life and activities on campus. There's been a lot of activity in the past couple of weeks. I'm excited to begin with Diversity Week, which officially kicked off today with our Diversity Rally. This week is dedicated to celebrating the many identities, cultures, and experiences that make up our school community. Throughout the week, we will be hosting a variety of themed days and events, including Neurodiversity Day, Gender and Sexuality Awareness Day, a cultural food fair, and a green team clothing swap focused on sustainability. These events aim not only to celebrate diversity, but also foster inclusion, understanding, and dialogue among students. In the student leadership updates, we've had a Club Senate meeting on January 14th, where clubs shared updates and discussed plans for the semester. Our second club charting window closes on January 31st, and we encourage any student groups interested in starting a new club for the new semester to submit their materials before the deadline. Last week, our campus also hosted a chess tournament, which brought together students of varying
Hello. Hello. Good evening, members of the board. My name is Evan Torrey. I have lived in Mountain View for 22 years, and I have 2 children attending MVHS, including a current 9th grader. I first want to thank the Board of Trustees for their decision last year to reduce the 9th grade ethnic studies class to just 1 semester or 5 units, thus providing students with more choices while still meeting the California mandated but unfunded ethnic studies requirement. I do, however, also want to bring to the board's attention the subsequent confusion and frustration that parents felt in the way that this decision was communicated, or rather, I should say, not communicated by the school or the district to parents. On Thursday, January 15th, there was a sudden burst of activity on the MVHS WhatsApp 9th grade parents group as one parent commented, "Did other parents know that kids can now elect out of ethnic studies for this semester? I just found that out today. Did I miss the note if there was one?" And another parent added, "I found out yesterday, and I don't think they communicated. Some kids were fast enough to drop and get into health before it was full." Like many parents, I did not know that the decision by the board would be applied retroactively. And I personally find it very frustrating that it was not proactively communicated. Indeed, through subsequent communication with Principal Glazer, I learned that the school and the district apparently never anticipated the need to inform current ninth grade students that the change in requirements applied to their own children about to start the second semester of a now no longer mandated requirement. It was only after some students noticed their classmates had disappeared from their ethnic studies class that parents started to inquire, and the school district then produced a public communication 2 weeks after the start. On January 16th, all ninth grade parents at Mountain View High School and Los Altos High School received a simulcast Parent Square message that is best characterized via one parent's comment in the WhatsApp group. The communication we got on Parent Square was very unhelpful on every aspect, other than the school clearly not wanting students to drop it. I do wonder whether the Board of Trustees, when they made this decision retroactive to existing ninth graders, realized that the schools in the district had no plans to communicate the implications in any clear and prompt fashion to parents. The lack of early communication and subsequent unhelpful communication prevented ninth grade students and their parents from understanding and exercising their options as given to them by your recent board decision. Whether this was intended by the people responsible for deciding not to inform the parents, or it was an oversight, is something for the board to find out. I'm saddened to say that the poor handling of this issue has caused me and other parents to lose confidence in the professionalism of some members of our school district, and makes us feel that we're not considered equal partners in our own children's education. Thank you for your time.
All right, next we move on to Students of the Month. All right, so I guess we'll move on to Lucy.
Hi, everyone. Frankie Bankson, a member of the graduating class of 2027 at Los Altos High School, is a remarkable example of leadership, service, and artistic dedication, making them an outstanding choice for Student of the Month. Frankie has demonstrated an exceptional commitment to service through their longstanding role as a State of California ambassador for the Muscular Dystrophy Association, a position they have held since 2018. In this role, Frankie represents the organization at charity events, participates in media campaigns to raise awareness, and actively supports the disabled community, showing empathy, advocacy, and maturity well beyond their years. Academically, Frankie gives back to the school community as a math and English tutor at LAHS, helping fellow students succeed in subjects ranging from algebra to world and American literature. Their willingness to support peers reflects both strong academic skills and a genuine desire to help others grow. Frankie is also deeply involved in the performing arts and student leadership. As a leadership board member for Blue Broadway, they help organize and run student-led musicals, collaborating closely with peers to bring productions to life. This year, Frankie took an even greater responsibility as a co-director of the 2024 to 2025 musical Xanadu, leading over 30 students, organizing rehearsals, and helping stage a successful production that raised over $1,000 through donations alone. In addition, Frankie is a member of the highly selective Broken Box audition-based theater class, where they contribute to multiple plays and performances each year. They also remain active in campus life through involvements in GSA and Improv Club, attending meetings and participating in school events. Frankie's talents extend beyond leadership and service into music and performance, with skills in guitar, piano, singing, and acting. Their achievements have been recognized with honors such as the Collaborative Learner Award from LHS and the Best New Thespian from the International Thespian Honor Society. Through compassion, creativity, and dedication to both their school and the broader community, Frankie Bankson truly embodies the spirit of Los Altos High School. We are proud to recognize Frankie as our Student of the Month.
Frankie, is there anything you would like to say to the board?
Thank you so much for all the work you do for my school. That's it.
Okay. Frankie, your commitment to academic excellence as a peer tutor combined with your collaborative learner award and best thespian marks you as a multi-talented leader who is dedicated to the success of the entire student body. Do you have family present?
Yeah, I have my mom, my dad, and my sibling.
I have a lot. That's great.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, next we have Claire from Mountain View High School.
Mountain View High School proudly recognizes Joaquin Meza Arenas as the January Student of the Month, celebrating his consistent excellence in leadership and dedication to the communities he serves. Joaquin has been an outstanding leader at MVHS, both inside and outside of the classroom since joining the school community his freshman year. Freshman year, he became involved in MECA, Movimiento Estudiantil Chicano de Aztlán, where he has remained an active member throughout his high school. This year, Joaquin stepped into the role of club president, continuing his commitment to advocacy and service through club initiatives and outreach efforts. In addition to MECHA, Joaquin is involved in campus leadership as a member of the Ambassadors Program and the Racial and Cultural Awareness Committee, or RCA. Through RCA, he works to celebrate and uplift the diverse cultures and identities represented at MVHS and has helped support events such as the February Spartan Pause and the Night Market, which foster cultural appreciation and belonging on campus. Beyond school, Joaquin continues to demonstrate a strong commitment to service. This year, he volunteered with Cops and Gobblers and has previously volunteered with Second Harvest. He is also involved with CASC and participated in the Student Advisory Board on Legislation and Education, where he contributed to discussions on educational policy and student advocacy. Joaquin is a well-rounded and engaged member of the MVHS community. Some of his most meaningful memories include attending homecoming and prom with his older twin brothers, volunteering during 8th grade parent night, and creating a podcast on cold cases through commercial arts. His thoughtful leadership and commitment to inclusion leave a lasting impact on those around him. After high school, Joaquin plans to apply to a UC or CSU, with an interest in majoring in biology or social justice and pursuing a future career in either medicine or law. Joaquin's excellence in leadership and service makes him the deserving recipient of the 2026 January MVHS Student of the Month Award. Thank you.
Joaquin, what a lot of acronyms you've been involved in. SABLE, RCA, MECA. They show a profound dedication to civic advocacy and equity. Do you have family present?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Leave mom out. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Next, we move on to our recognitions and resolutions. So I'm not going to read these out. Not that they're all very important. However, they are typically annual resolutions. So first resolution is 9.1, our annual resolution for National African American History Month. Do I have a motion?
I move that we approve this resolution on National African American History Month.
Okay.
second.
All right, so moved by Catherine, seconded by Alex. Lucy, how do you vote?
I approve.
Claire, how do you vote?
I approve.
Board, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that's
Um,
5-0.
May I add one more comment too? And that is all of our different diversity in our schools and community deserve the recognition. And it's so nice that there are whole months donated to all different groups that we can recognize. And so I'm so thrilled that we can recognize this group this month.
Okay, so next we move on to our recognition of school counselors and National School Counseling Week. I don't know why they only get a week, but so do I have a motion?
I move that we approve this recognition of school counselors and School Counseling Week.
Okay, second.
I second.
Okay, moved by Catherine, seconded by Alex. Let's see. Who did I do for? Claire, how do you vote?
I approve.
Lucy, how do you vote?
I approve.
Okay, board, all in favor? Aye. Okay, that's 5-0. Okay, next we move on to where we recognize ourselves, but we also recognize other school boards too. So this is celebrating School Board Recognition Month. Do I have a motion?
As the longest standing member sitting on the board at this time, it's kind of embarrassing, but I move that we accept the resolution on celebrating School Board Recognition Month.
Okay, do I have a second?
I second.
Okay, moved by Catherine, seconded by Alex. Let's see. Who did I do? I think it's now Lucy's turn. Lucy, how do you vote?
I approve.
Claire, how do you vote?
I approve.
Okay, board, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Now, before you go to the next one, because it is School Board Appreciation Month, we have
Oh,
some appreciating to do.
oh, thank you. That's very kind. Okay, so for those who are can't see, we've got mugs that have MVLA with goodies inside. So next we move on to a proclamation. So this is not a resolution. It's a proclamation recognizing Career and Technical Education Month, or CTE month. This is new, so I don't know if we want to read it or not, or we can just look at it on the screen. I
don't
think we can
need
just
to
look
read
at it. Let's do the therefore.
Yeah, that's good.
I, Peter Corns, MVLA Board President of Mountain View, Los Altos High School District in Santa Clara County, do hereby proclaim February 1 through 28, 2026 as CTE month. In MVLA UHSD, and urge all citizens to become familiar with the services and benefits offered by the CTE programs in this community, and to support and participate in these programs to enhance their individual skills and productivity. In testimony and so on, etc., the 26th day of January 2026.
Okay, I guess it counts if you read it on my mouth. Thank you. All right.
Does this mean that we don't approve it?
No,
Because
we
you
still get to
proclaimed
vote.
it? Okay, so I move that we accept this proclamation for CTE Education Month.
All right. Do I have a second?
I second.
Okay, moved by Catherine, seconded by Alex. Let's see. Claire,
I approve.
Lucy.
I approve.
Okay, board, all in favor? Okay, that's 5-0.
I do have a question on how come it's a proclamation rather than resolution, but that's all right.
I think that is a
They make
technical
very-
question you
they-
can ask the superintendent later. Let's move on to the consolidated agenda. So does anyone have any clarifying questions? Okay, seeing none, does anyone have any items they wish to pull?
Yes, can we pull 10.2?
Okay. So the team wishes to pull 10.2. Do I have a motion on all the other items? Or does anyone have anything else they wish to pull?
I vote that we approve the rest of the items.
Okay, so that would, just to clarify, that would be 10.1, 10.3, 10.4, 10.5, and 10.6.
That's correct.
Okay,
I second that.
all right. Okay. Lucy, how do you vote?
I approve.
Claire, how do you vote?
I approve.
Board, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Sorry. Okay. All right. So let's move on to 10.2, which is, or actually removed, so item is pulled from the consolidated, which is 10.2. It is now, so it is the amended contract agreement, Emmett Learning LLC.
So I had a question about it. We have previously approved 150,000 for the first 6 months, and now we are approving another 150,000 for the second period, for the second 6 months. Is that correct?
So in looking at the student need for, as the students were coming in, we had previously had two medical care staff for a student who was with us last year. And then as the new students arrived, we realized there were students who needed registered behavior technicians as well, one-to-ones with them. And so the original contract we put in was to be for the medical staff originally. But then when we added the RBTs, we needed enough money to cover the full year. So the first part of the money covered the first semester, and then we needed to double that for the second semester to cover all student needs.
So if I understand correctly, let me rephrase it back. We planned for 150,000 for the whole year with the number of support specialists. And then we realized as new students were coming in the fall semester, so the past semester, that we need additional support, and we've exhausted the 150,000 that we planned for the whole year within the 6 months. So now we are asking for additional 150,000. Okay. What is there something for the board to consider? Like, how do we make this decision?
Yeah, so this is part of the students' IEPs. It's a needed service for them to access their education. And we, by law, need to provide it to them if that enables them to access their education.
Okay.
So the medical and behavioral support is necessary.
May I say that from my experience working with you guys over the last number of years is that you really don't know totally what you're going to have in terms of the needs of the incoming students. I mean, you have some clue if they were from a partner school, but in some cases you get a completely other student, or once we evaluate them, we find they have different needs, and we simply have to do it to give them the access to the education. So a special ed is a situation where the money goes up and down, some of it not totally under our control, but we do have to approve the budget either way.
Okay, are we ready to call the question?
Quick clarification. In the broader sort of budget for this special needs, I guess, services, how unpredictable is our budget? Meaning that, we are looking at this specific case, and I know that previously we reviewed some cases. What's difficult for me as a board member is to be able to step back and say, we have this much budget. There's an unpredictable nature because as the student year begins, we discover additional needs or reduced needs that we must satisfy. So where are we?
Team, these are very good questions, and I think we're just voting on this specific item. So with all due respect, I would hope that you can sit down with Jennifer and or Eric and have these questions answered.
sense.
Just a
Yeah.
quick answer. Jennifer and our student services coordinator in that office are spending a great amount more time working with our partner districts for students coming in than last year. Remember last year a year ago, we were a little unsettled within the leadership and special ed,
Sure.
and we were trying to basically fill holes with interim personnel. That's not the case this year. So hopefully our surprises will be diminished.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so are we ready to vote now? Okay, it looks like we are. So do I have a, no, we have not made a motion yet. Okay, second.
I second.
Okay, moved by Catherine, seconded by Alex. Lucy, how do you vote?
I approve.
Claire, how do you vote?
I approve.
Not everyone is Catherine. Okay, board, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next we move on to our business action items. And our first one is the California Dashboard LEE indicators. I believe we have a presentation from Terry Fogg, our Associate Superintendent of Educational Services.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. It is a pleasure to provide you the update for our California dashboard. This is for the school year of 2024-25. The dashboard pulls its data from CalPADS, which is the California Longitudinal Pupil Achievement Data System. And we provide CalPADS 4 reports a year with various data sorts that comes from our student information system. So it's actually quite a bit of work to prepare for that data to go into CalPADS, and it's always exciting when the dashboard comes out. The California dashboard has shown us for the 24-25 school year, just a quick note of our students. We had a small uptick in population between the 2 years. That includes a small uptick of our socioeconomically disadvantaged students. Those are students who are free and reduced lunch, homeless, or parents with an educational level that did not graduate high school. That's what identifies that group. English language learners, foster youth, homeless. I also want to note, as we look through the data and we look at some of our subgroups, we do have some students that lie in a couple of different subgroups. So as an example, 59% of our English language learners are socioeconomically disadvantaged. 15% of our English language learners are homeless. 68% of our homeless students are English language learners. So when we look at data and we see subgroups joined together in various data sorts in the same criteria of the dashboard, knowing that these groups have large percentages of shared students can help explain that difference. CalPADS, want to explain the system before we get into our data, is based on a 2-year comparison. So it compares that current school year, which in this case was the 24-25, to the previous school year, 23-24. And it looks at what the stats was from the 23-24 school year. And based on what the 24-25 school year is, if it increased, decreased, or maintained, determined helps determine where we go on the color wheel. And that color wheel is just a quick visual indication of blue. That means we are at the highest performance we can get on the system. Then green, yellow, orange, and red is the lowest that one could achieve on the system. And excuse me, when you look at our dashboard at first glance, we're crushing it. We're in blues and greens. Our students are showing high performance across all indicators. There is a lot to be proud of with the support and the education and the opportunities that we're providing our students at MVLA. In addition to that, as we do the two-year comparison, what we also see is even more astonishing. We're continually getting stronger, even in areas that we're showing the highest performance. We increased in English language arts, reached level blue. In math, the highest level, we were there at that highest level in 2023-24. We didn't just maintain, we continue to increase in that top bracket. English learner progress, we jumped the yellow and went from orange to green in progress. Graduation rate, college and career, suspension rate, all showing real strong data. We're increasing in our performances, and I'll dig a little bit deeper into that as we go on into the slides. So as we look at academic performance, I first wanted to point out the bottom graph, which is showing the trajectory from pre-COVID going into 2022. That's the post-COVID, and across the nation was showing the lowest scores on the standardized test. And since then, we have been working hard with learning recovery, supporting our students, and have seen continual growths in math and ELA. In addition, with the English language learner, which is the LPAT test, seeing strong growths. As we, again, look at the comparisons year over year, we see an increase in ELA, increase of math, and an increase of science. Some of this is our students and our staff doing a strong job. Some of our state assessment increase, I believe, is based on the systems that we made some changes to. As an example, in the years past, our students, our juniors for the SBAC, ELA and math would come in early to school where all the other students had a late start to take 4 days of the SBAC test. And our seniors would come in 1 day early to take the California Science Test, also called the CAST. What we saw in situations like that is students either starting to come in, juniors, those first day or two, and then starting to show absences the other days. And we are required by the state to reach 95% participation rate on the SBAC. And every student or percentage that we do not get up to 95% is a ding in the points. And so some of this growth is our student academic growth, but some of this growth, in particular, I want to point out, the science is because we had stronger participation rate due to the change in our system this past year versus the years in the past. I do not believe our students were really 6 point above state average in the 23-24. That I believe, was due to the low number of participation rates that we were able to get from our students to come in. And then the logarithm, you get deducted points from that. In addition to the assessments, we can see that we've had an increase in grad rates, college ready rates, and we'll talk about the suspension rate in just a moment, because I still want to go a little bit deeper with our ELA and our math. When, again, we look at the dashboard and we see strong achievement going from green to blue or maintaining blue on all levels. As we dig deeper, which is one of the benefits of the California dashboard, is you do get to go into those subgroups to make sure that the more marginalized or minority groups are equally being identified in their progress and not lumped in with all of the masses. That helps schools identify what the current strengths are, as well as areas of growth and what we need to target for support. And in this case, we see first and foremost growth in so many areas of our student demographics. And yet, even when we see growth in English learners, students with disabilities, and socioeconomically disadvantaged, which we need to be proud of this growth, we also recognize that, as an example, our Asian population for ELA scored 144 points above average, and our English language learners scored 167 points below standard. So that's a gap, a chasm, if you will. Again, we see some growth, so the work that we're doing is making some progress, but we also need to recognize, as we look and we see the blue up there, that there's stories underneath that gives us guidance on our WASC and our LCAP in our work of what upcoming priorities we need to be setting to support some students. And equally, we see some similarities with our mathematics. We did have a small drop with our 2 and more races and our white with both of those populations. They maintained in the green despite the 10 to 20% or 10 to 20 point difference of a decline in the data. As we shift from content academics to graduation, we again see an increase from the past years. Up in the graph, a 1% increase from the years before, and as the graph below also shows, is a constant slight increase from year after year. When we take a look at the individual subgroups, again, we're seeing strong increases with our homeless at the highest increase of almost 6% from the previous year. The California dashboard rates graduation rate by a 4-year cohort. So when students enter their senior year, they look at those seniors all the way through their 4 years in high school. And at any time, if we had, let's say, a student enrolling with us in 10th grade, come senior year, the California dashboard takes that student's state ID number and they look to see if they're not in our school, then what other district is that school, that student located in? And if they see that that student is located in another district, fine. But if they cannot find that student in any other district, then that's counted as a non-grad. So some of these percentage points are because students unenroll with us and don't enroll in other schools, or move out of the country and don't notify the school district that they're disenrolling, and so therefore CalPADS cannot find them in the system. Some of these students are 5th-year students. And when you dig deep into the CalPADS data, which was one of the attachments, you'll see that the graduation rate is not just about four-year grads, but it's also incorporating that next 5th-year grad and what percentage of them graduated, and that gets added into this population. So the graduation rate is pretty comprehensive, but it also really targets students that may have unenrolled or dropped out of a school and didn't enter in any other school district, and it's pointing out those dropouts or those non-grads. That makes it difficult for us as an example, our board indicators with graduation rate is not able to track. We don't have the sophisticated system like CalPADS does. College and career readiness. This is a indicator that shows that our students participated in opportunities in high school that the state deems making them very well prepared to be successful in a 4-year college or more. That includes getting a 3 or higher on both the math and the SBAC score, or getting a 3 or higher on 2 AP exams, at least 2 AP exams, or completing 2 semesters of a college class, or completing A to G and either taking an AP or CTE completer or college credit, or being a CTE completer and being successful in the SBAC or college credit. So there's multiple ways for our students to show college and career readiness. And with that, what we see is we had almost a 6% increase from the past year. We're at 77% of our students being marked as college and career ready on a system that's even more robust than, I shouldn't say just the A to G, but it is requiring some more factors to be incorporated with it. We see an increase across all of our students in this system for college and career readiness, with, again, the similar subgroups that we've seen in our ELA and math as not having the same success as their counterparts. Part of the challenge with English learners or students with disability, although they're in the green, that's great achievement for them this year from last year, is these students are taking elective classes, ELD designated classes, sometimes that's 1 or 2 designated classes, IEP resource learning skills classes. And by taking these electives, it does pull away from them having opportunities of, let's say, CTE course completer options. And so there's some systems that high school districts, as we're in a coalition, discuss with certain populations not having as free of a schedule to take a variety of courses as other students that we're seeing in the blues. We set out a couple years ago prioritizing our English language learner progress. It started out by, well, it continued and included moving our English language program, opening up an English language program to Los Altos High School, giving closer access to the students who are Los Altos residents to be able to attend Los Altos High School and get those same ELD resources, as one of the challenges that we noted was absenteeism with the distance being traveled. As we began with that, we continue to take a look at our coursework, getting students access into general education classes, hiring an ELD coach, Taika Sue, a teacher on special assignment, putting 2 fabulous coordinators, Adriana Romero Sanchez and Jose Rosario, at the helm of that department for their sites, targeting work for our long-term EL students to support them on the LPAC with preparation. And what we've seen for the second year in a row is continued growth in our system. We started this year with piloting cohorting ELD students in their English gen ed classroom with an IA to further support their acquisition, their support, but also some comfort and belonging that they have in a course that they may be the only English language learner in that class. So we're also tracking success of that piloting program. Lastly, I do want to note in the bottom corner is a small shift from what you have on your slides. This is corrected from the board data. This is showing us the summative LPAC breakdown. And again, we increased by 50 points. Progress moved in at least one level. We decreased at the bottom by 8 points, the decrease of progress. And again, this was found on the second attachment on the board agenda item that shows all of the dashboard printed off for you. So last couple, as I finish up, conditions and climate is how safe and secure and supported a district in a school site is. We see in the bottom historical graph, that we have been declining in our suspensions over the past 5 years. This year, we've seen a small uptick. We went from 49 students being suspended last year to 50 in 23-24 to 54 students in 24-25. That's a 6 student difference. I would say that that's pretty remarkable. and things happen, and, 6 students difference is still saying our schools are doing a real strong job with supporting safe campuses, restorative practices, and not jumping always to suspension as the only option to deal with behavior concerns. With everything that's said about being strong in our conditions and climates, I also want to point out that the orange and yellows are students who had higher rates of suspension, and those also are students of color or language learners. And so that's something that we work with our sites around and continue to determine what type of preventative measures we can provide all students, and also working to ensure that we are equitably disciplining our students. And to finish, there's a lot of really good stuff happening in our district. I mean, you hear at every board meeting when the principals get up and they share with you the superintendent's board update. The campuses are humming, there's activities, there's belonging, going into the class, students are engaged, they're working with their hands, they're collaborating with one another, and we're seeing this in indicator versus indicator to indicator gains. And a couple of takeaways that we want to prioritize is working with our language learners, and a particular focus with math in some of those low numbers that we're seeing in math as well as English, and how are we supporting those 2 core academic areas for our language learners. So with that said, that concludes the dashboard update. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. Catherine?
I had one question, and that is on those graduation rates.
Yes.
Where if they left and they disappeared into Never Never Land and we don't track them, but then they still count in this case against us because they didn't graduate. Do we have disaggregated data that would tell us how many of students are actually in that category, so that we could, like, the dashboard wouldn't show it, but we could like make our own little mini dashboard that showed that if you don't count those, this would be what it would be?
Yeah, we do. We could pull that information. So they are marked as a certain status. And so we could just query what that status was and then the demographic of that status.
Yeah, because then we would be even better off.
More
Yeah.
informed.
Mhm. And then the 5th year, it counts whether you're 4th or 5th year? I mean, or do they give you a demerits for taking an extra year?
Correct.
On the way they do it on the dashboard?
So if a student doesn't graduate in 4 years, then that's a ding on the school of not graduating in 4 years. When they come back and finish that 5th year, then they add to that graduation rate. Now, there's some students that we have to allow a 5th year. Students with IEPs, some of them have it written into their plan that they need a 5th year to graduate. A student who is homeless, foster youth, juvenile, or a newcomer or migrant student can be given, or is to be given, a 5th year if they cannot complete, if they come into our school as a junior and they cannot complete graduation requirements by their 4th year, then we have to give them a 5th year.
Mhm.
And so if you were to see a school system that was at 100% completion, I would be asking some questions around their data, because there's systems built in that the state recognizes a 5th year is needed. And we have a high success rate as well of our 5th years coming back and completing their grad credits that they needed to finish up.
Additionally, we have some students on IEPs that are non-diploma tracked. They'll never graduate from high school. They go from life skills here into our ATP. They also count against us.
Certificate of completion. Thank you.
That's too bad. And also, when you say students with disabilities, do you mean disabilities that are not academic capability, or
It could
not?
be any student with an IEP. It could be emotional disability. It could be a cognitive. It could be a physical. If somewhere the IEP team deems an additional year, or, I mean, we have to provide education up to the year of 22 for students with IEPs.
Okay.
And so
What I meant is some of these other statistics, when it says achievement gaps for students with disabilities. But in math, if a student was not going to get a diploma in the first place, then they probably wouldn't do well in the math test. But do they count in these stats?
Yes, they do.
Just curious.
And you bring up a good point. There's a lot of stories behind the data, and we need to be able to understand the complexities of the students that we work with, and it's not comparing apples to apples all the time.
So, and that's another place that would be maybe good to disaggregate the scores, you know, to not have them be in the, separate them out in terms of considering them and come up with strategies to help those students, but that it's not an overall trend.
Thank you.
Padim?
Yeah. Thank you, Terry. Data does look good. I have a few questions. I was looking at subsets of data, as you pointed out. If you just look at overall data, you may not capture things.
Yeah.
I see improvements across the board in many areas, which is great. However, in math, among white students, I see a significant decline in Mountain View, and only Mountain View, not in Los Altos. What's going on there? Do you know?
Why
30
one school had a more
It's a
significant?
33.9 point decline among white student population in math standard.
So it's hard to point out why the two schools have been neck and neck, and 33-point decline, although is something that we need to take a look at, also can be the difference of not all the students completing the math, right? It could is and the 95% is about starting. It doesn't have to be finishing. It could be the cohort of students that year. It could be a myriad of factors. We haven't dug deep into why Mountain View is a little bit lower than Los Altos in this, because we haven't seen, when we look at the AP data, when we look at the GPA data and the DNF data, we don't see alarming rates. And so this is one factor that, we put a pin in it and definitely make sure that it's on the radar, but it doesn't cause a knee-jerk response to wonder what that school did wrong or what that school did right. Now, if we started to see trends across all of our datas with math or one school, then that would ask for a deeper dive from us.
I suspect there's something wrong with the data because the number of students participating is about the same. I looked at that as well. I just wanted to point it out.
Thank
It would
you.
be good to take a look.
Thank you.
Another question is, if we look at the short period of time, we do see increase. But when I look at the graph from 2019, I think we are skipping COVID years, right? And 20,
Correct.
right?
And
So-
this wasn't given, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So 2019 is kind of as far as the graph is showing us the data. We across English and math, across multiple demographics that I had time to look, we are not quite there yet. Any thoughts on that?
When you say across multiple demographics, you're talking socioeconomically disadvantaged.
A few that I looked at was large population. Small population is hard to judge. But I looked at English, I looked at math. Across the board, we are lower from where we were in 2019. We are growing, we are increasing, but we're still below 2019 level.
Yeah, and this is a statewide trend.
Yeah.
That pre-COVID, the scores were higher, and then it was a huge plummet after the COVID, and now we're seeing some districts like ours progressing faster than other districts. But this trend of this graph is a nationwide trend.
Yeah.
And it just really goes to show the impact that a year of closure had. And it wasn't just on the year. I mean, there was a ripple effect of, our younger years of students in that 5th grade, 6th grade, 4th grade, we're learning, when that is minimalized, it carries its impact into the future years down the road. Thank you.
Mhm.
Alex?
Thank you, Terry, for covering this. Also excited to see lots of progress here. Very, very cool to see. Vadim already covered some of my questions, but I do have one outstanding one. Actually, two. So one, I wanted to clarify that the test scores that we're talking about here, which is math and science and English, are from a test taken last spring.
Correct.
And this data we actually already covered in November or December. And what's new here is the other indicators. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes.
Okay, cool. So this is just like a different presentation of the same data we reviewed in November, December, and actually discussed quite a bit.
Correct. So what we did in November, December was our board indicators, which we pull from Aries. And that includes GPA, AP scores, graduation rate. But like I said, the graduation rate is different in how we calculate it from CalPADS because we can't track. And then the SBAC that we pulled out, that is from TOMS, which is the CASP reporting. And so that has a different way that they report out than the dashboard. But yes, multiple of these data sorts have been presented in the fall.
Okay.
CASP reports percentage of students that are at or above standard. This reports points, mean score above standard. So that's the difference because they penalize you on the dashboard for students not taking, whereas CASP shows just the percentage of students
Yep.
that are above standard. So that's the difference between the two.
Perfect. Thank you. And my second question. So clearly we have, as you showed us in the last slide and throughout the report, we can see we have to focus on improving outcomes for students with the greatest needs. How do we at the same time sort of monitor for unintended impact on students who are already performing at a high level? So Vadim question is one example of that, right? But curious, what's our approach to that?
So I appreciate that question. One of our approaches with our teachers, and this is why we're doing a pilot, is we want our teachers to continue to provide the grade level curriculum that they're providing that shows the strong outputs for our students. When a student needs some extra tools to access, we are training all teachers in constructing meaning, which is a consistent way to provide access to curriculum by using sentence frames, routines, language patterns. It's evidence-based by, Marzano's. It's a compilation of, well-tested research on strategies that supports all students, but it also helps those students that need a little extra tool or two to get that access to show their potential to get it. And so we are continuing to support teachers with what they're currently teaching and supporting them to incorporate some tools that not minimizes or dilutes what they're teaching, but gives a ladder to help those students access that curriculum. That is our approach of making sure students continue to stay strong while rising the bottom, because some students can just jump in and read 10 pages and analyze the 10 pages all in one. And some students need a little bit of chunking and stopping and thinking and analyzing little by little. Same curriculum, same pacing, just a couple extra tools that help students get to that level of understanding that they couldn't to begin with. That was just one example.
Super helpful. Thank you. My question was more about monitoring unintended impact as opposed to what tools do we provide. This was also very helpful answer.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So
Going ahead.
just to make sure that I'm catching that, our monitoring is this right here, all of this data. So we monitor Ds and Fs at the quarter, the semester. We monitor Ds and Fs at the end of the year in our board indicators. We monitor the dashboard. We monitor our A to P. As we saw earlier in the fall, we increased in AP tests, AP students, and AP students getting 3 or higher. And so, we look at our GPA overall, and Mr. Volta calls it the brick, but that is our robust monitoring system that is continuing to remind us where we need to bring in some targets while ensuring that all students are being supported and not harmed in that process.
That's awesome. Thank you. I've seen some of the data that you've shared as part of our board meetings. I think GPA trends, or at least to the levels that I perceive you're saying, we haven't seen as part of the board meetings would be helpful along with other data. Thank you.
We could do that.
Wanted to pump the information this year as we got it so that
Love
we
it.
actually spend time talking about it. But Terry's department has put together the brick.
Yep.
So we'll share that.
Oh.
you.
Super excited. Thank you.
I have one last question, and that has to do about the time, because these are all time tests.
Correct. No, they're not. The SBAC is not timed.
Like you can take 8 hours if you want.
That's correct.
And so who
So we're-
proctors a test that you
so
can take
we're-
all day on?
Yeah, we're able to monitor through the CASP dashboard what
Mhm.
students completed. There's 4 different tests, 2 English, 2 math, what students completed and what students are still in progress. And so at the end of our testing day, both sites have a system built in. So students who have not finished, they pull them in during the tutorial periods, during their free periods, number 1. They may need to pull them from an elective class if needed. And they have a designated room with a proctor that helps students complete the rest of their tests that may need additional time to do so.
And so all the tests that the dashboard represents are like that.
Correct. Yes.
This is really helpful. Thank you, Terry. It's really exciting to see some of these colors shift, particularly around some of the special student demographics.
Or we've been in
populations.
red before.
Yeah. So I just appreciate looking at this. I appreciate the reference to just even last year. I'm curious, as you've triangulated this data with some of the other data sources, if there's specific areas that we need to really focus in because you see trends coming out of this data along with some of those other data sources.
We do see, this is a good question. It's making me like flip through the visual, right, of the data binder. I will say that we're seeing a through line with our socioeconomically disadvantaged English language learners and students with disabilities ebb and flow a little bit. Continually having below 3.0 GPA, not meeting A to G as strong as their peers, the SBAC or CASP, where we do see some improvement in those areas are the freshman no Fs and the freshman 2.0 and above. And so even though we're not seeing this like strong growth yet in these areas, we do see with the systems that students are accessing their education better than ever before. And a 2.0 GPA or higher freshman year is a strong prediction of graduation completion. And so seeing that we've seen uptick and that it's nearly comparable to many of their peers is real strong success that one, this is complex work, right? This is not something that happens over a couple of years. And the amount of efforts and focus that we've continually pushed on it, we're seeing the progress happening.
Right. And my next question sort of leads into that. How are we using this data or other data to inform practice? And like, what's the cycle of that?
Good question. So at a higher level, we talk as administrators, cabinet around this data. One of the pieces with the LCAP is putting this data in the hands of our parents, of DLAC, of MSAC, the student group, so that we're getting feedback from them. It is an area of growth for us to have comprehensive conversations with this particular data, the dashboard with our teachers. Primarily, it's time. We have very short collaboration time to be able to sit and have conversations around this, but it is shared.
And
Just to answer that question, some of the past actions that you saw, as you see, that we actually have a teacher on special assignment in the area of English learners. We now have much more alignment between the two school sites regarding our English learner program and the curriculum that's being taught in those classes. This last year, we actually had our TOSO work with students and prior to the LPAC, So those are just some small examples of things that we've been doing that we did last year to address some of the lower scores. LTEL's long-term English learners continue to be a challenge because of there's a reason why they're not gaining fluency in English. And so, you know, some of them don't have quite 100% fluency in their original language. So those are some things that we are.
And this past year, we did build in a system that we're pulling in LTELs during Tutorial Act, and we're doing coaching and teaching specifically for that demographic as the data shows that that's a continued area.
Yeah, and it was helpful to hear as you were going through it, specific inputs that you were sharing. This leads to my last question, and maybe you started answering this, but at the board level, what is it that we need to continue to support or look at in order to prioritize some of those areas and see improvements?
We appreciate the support from the board in our demographics. We presented several different times constructing meaning as a necessary tool for all students, but essential, critical for our students that are still in the orange. And the support that this team has given with continuing to allow us to make that a focus. Bell's schedule is coming up. We've been having multiple questions. Collaboration time is essential for our teachers. Alignment, working together to build curriculum that supports, as Alex was saying, all levels, is critical that we have that time built in so that they're working as teams and not doing it in silos. And that's where all the variability comes in. So really appreciating the support of the work that we're doing and the guidance to help us strengthen that work.
Okay, thank you. So the problem with going last is Esme asked a lot of great questions, and Catherine had a lot of great questions about disaggregation. I did want to emphasize one thing. One was the great progress you've made on English learner progress. That's really amazing.
I'd like to give a shout out one more time.
Yeah, so
Department
thank you.
coordinators, Adriana, Jose, Taika, Tosa, and our principals in the back who are true equity leaders that have supported a lot of the great improvements as well.
The other thing is, I think it's really crucial for us to disaggregate the data for students with disabilities, for those who are not going to have it, who are not on the diploma track, because those are students who are not going to go to, do college readiness, pass a number of indicators. So what I really want to know is students who are on the diploma track should, with the right supports, be able to graduate and do well perform academically with the right supports. That is the purpose of an IEP, is my understanding. So I think digging into that and figuring out now we have this new, well, she's been here since the fall, but we have a special ed director, and I think who's here, and I think figuring out how we can support our students, because to me, having a group, we've succeeded with our English language learners. So our next group, I think disaggregating the data so we know exactly who those students are, and then figuring out why. You said they were in different groups. Some of them are English language learners. So let's take those out, because if that's also a barrier, because having an English language learner and a disability, I imagine makes it that much harder to learn English. But let's focus on the students who are the single category. What are those students? How are those students performing? Because when you look at that data, just on its face, what I'm hearing is that the special education department isn't serving our students. I don't think that's correct, but I think we need to figure out where, disaggregate the data and make sure that if a student is on that diploma track, that we are we are giving them the tools that they need to graduate. And you had mentioned previously some other tools like co-taught classes and some other things. I don't want to go into the details of that, but I think it's if we can go to green on English language learners, and they were in the they've been in the red actually, and now orange. I think we can, and we actually can spend, we can actually have individual education plans for our students with disabilities. So, and then the other thing I think is our socioeconomically disadvantaged students. I know we have our McKinney-Vento, and we had a presentation on the McKinney-Vento students. I would be interested to know kind of a little bit more on sort of their profiles and how it affects their attendance in school. Like, again, a bit to Catherine's point, like how many of them are homeless, how many are foster youth, how many are McKinney-Vento, because that influences kind of what bucket of money they get and also what support services they get from the school. So it is complicated. And so I don't have a good sense from looking at this chart here exactly as a board to Esme's question, where we need to focus as a board to get everyone to green or blue, because that's really, our goal is to have all students succeed.
Well, you're pointing out nicely, part of the purpose of this data is for us to ask more questions. And we need to understand more about our SED students. So let's do a deeper dive, bring in some numbers, et cetera. So this is not the one-all answer. It is to start the conversations. So I appreciate that. And the second, our board indicators that we pull do separate out the special day class students in special education from the students in resource. So it does give us a more helpful understanding of where they're performing at that grade level academic.
So
where the dashboard doesn't.
Yeah, so I think what I would appreciate is, since we have these board indicators, I think for myself, and I think this is to Catherine's point, if we already have these indicators, presenting them in this slide so that we have some of our questions answered. I know you presented it in November, but that was in November, and seeing it side by side, then we can go, oh, okay, this is the board indicators, because after all, this is a snapshot, whereas, not that I'm saying you should present the whole brick but our A through G completion might be helpful, because that's actually a really key indicator of, success in a four-year college. Just pick a couple, but definitely things that disaggregate this data would be super helpful. Thank you.
Thank you.
And that is, what you were giving us examples of things you have done that seem to have helped with the improvement. The TOSA, the alignments, the working on the bell schedule, realizing that we need to change get more collaboration time and so on. So what are you going to try next? I mean, do you already have a list in your pocket, pulling them out? Next, we're going to try this, and you want to try things that have shown success in other environments or for other people. It's districts, but it'd be kind of nice. Oh, now we're going to try to improve here. Well, how? I mean, when are you going to know, and when are you going to tell us what you think you're going to do next to try to move the needle even differently?
Yeah. So Douglas Reeves, who is an educational researcher, has the 5 Ds, but the last 2 is about double back to double up. And his encouragement to school systems is, when you see something working, like we're seeing indications that constructing meaning and co-teaching is making an impact. we have to double back and continue the efforts and the expectations in the coaching around this so we can double up those scores. Because the moment we say, okay, we did that, we're good with that focus, let's go find something else and focus, then the amount of fidelity that's going to take place with, as an example, constructing meaning across all campuses is going to start to fade. And that's when we see these numbers be more oscillating than we could control it. So my encouragement to everybody is let's double back on the strong work that we have started to see systems creating improvements. And therefore, we should be able to double up our numbers and see that growth. So thank you, everybody. Douglas Reeves. our
Thank
EQ
you. That was some inspiring closing words. Thank you very much. All right, so next we move on to 12.2, which is instructional continuity plan. Eric, do you have any comments?
We are required to create this plan and make it part of our LCAP. This is in case of those kinds of emergencies that arise around the state, whether it's fire, earthquake, smoke, that type of thing. And I know Terry's been working with the school sites on this for quite some time. Terry? Oh, you are required to approve this. Or we ask that you approve this.
Okay, does anyone have any questions or comments before we consider a motion? Catherine, no? All right, do I have a motion?
I move we approve the ICP.
Okay, do I have a second?
I second.
Okay, moved by Catherine, seconded by Alex. Okay, Claire, how do you vote?
I approve.
Lucy, how do you vote?
I approve.
Board, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that's 5-0. Okay, next we move on to board operations. We have board suggestions for future board reports or meetings. Does anyone have any? Okay,
I do.
okay.
Yeah, I think it's appropriate for this line item. So I want to acknowledge the frustration that the parents and the students have with inability to take health in the current year. And what that made me realize is that we really don't have a policy that the board has reviewed for how and what courses students can take out of the district. And I'd like to suggest that we actually establish one. What we have is a procedure, or at least it looks to me, both as a parent, as a trustee, when I look at the out-of-district form and the guidances, all of that seems to be sort of an established procedure, but I could not find a policy that clearly states definition of core classes, which was something that was messaged to the community. It says core classes. What are the core classes? And it refers to it as a policy, yet if you look at the list of policies, standard policy, you won't find one. In the meantime, what I'd like to encourage my fellow trustee members or superintendent is that we do consider the request that I have seen on WhatsApp groups, the parents and the students who were able to drop ethnic studies, so who chose to drop and are able to drop, are asking for the same thing that the next year freshmen will be entitled to do and be supported by the district. And it's actually a favor to the district, because if we do nothing, then at most we will have double the number of students who want to take health next year. Again, making a bunch of assumptions, but assuming that many ninth graders, next year ninth graders will take health in pair with ethnic studies, and today's ninth graders will be 10th graders next year will also want to take health. We'll have double the amount of demand for health, and we already don't have enough health teachers. We need to do something about that for the next year. And that demand is not sustainable, right? That demand will just be a spontaneous one-year demand. So we'll need to hire temporary teachers who later we won't need. It's like basically an investment you don't want to make if you don't have to. Nor will we have a higher quality education. So that request is temporary in nature, and I would like for the board to consider and understand it and consider that what parents are mentioning on the chat, what we heard the speaker mention today, is not anything that next year students are going to do because of the way that we voted. Like, we want to support them. So I would like to see us do something to support the current ninth graders to be able to go out of the district, because it's completely understandable that within the district we cannot do it. And the change to priority of the adult school to prioritize students who are 16 plus means that some of the students are not going to be able to take health in the summer, even if they want to. Which is not the best option. But even if they want to, they won't be able to do it until their senior summer or senior year when they're applying to college. Those that are born in the summer. So anyway, all of that said, I'd like to hear suggestions, maybe from you, Eric, fellow board members, of what can we actually do. Yeah.
I think administratively we can do that because we don't actually have a board approved board policy. We have a written practice. It's called a policy, but we have a practice. It's on our website. Administratively, since it was an administrative practice, it could be an administrative change. We are currently working on the policy, on the alternative credits to graduation policy. We are close to being able to bring that to the board. I would ask that it's not just this year's freshmen. Terry and I were talking about this today. And by increasing our graduation requirements for the classes of 27, 28, and 29 to 40 credits of social studies, we put a burden on 3 years of students for health. Now, some of them may have figured out a way to take it, but I think a lot of the juniors and sophomores are also finding a difficult challenge in terms of taking health. So I don't know that, I think if we okay it for this year's freshmen, it probably should go to all grade levels and all classes that had the 40 credit social studies requirement.
Makes sense. I didn't think of that, but you're absolutely right.
Okay.
Yeah, I also think that if we have a policy, it should apply to all students because we serve all students as a board. So I think looking at alternative credits, I think is a good idea.
We are
Yeah.
in the process of bringing that to you.
When do you think because the clock is ticking, so like for this year, I don't know if it's still possible. I know that you can still register for courses at the community colleges, but it's already late registration for many of these courses.
Prior to making an administrative decision, are there any concerns about opening up health to non-MVLA courses for those 3 grade levels?
My only concern is that, we're ultimately responsible as a district because it is a state mandated course with very specific state. It's not like math or some other thing where the curriculum is not prescribed. I mean, if you read the law, it is very specific about what is required. So I think there do need to be some checks on whether this course actually meets the health requirement per the state. So I think there needs to be some balance between, we can't check, say, 100 vendors. So what is the process and what is the way so that students have choice, and yet it's not kind of a free for all where you can just go to some vendor in Kansas and say, well, this is health, and then actually you find out in your senior year, well, actually that didn't qualify.
By the way, the vendor in Kansas is Excellus. There is actually a vendor from Kansas.
I did not know.
Oh,
that.
the 50.
I was not picking
I
on
would call
anyone.
what Thea said vetting the possibilities of places that people could take it if we allowed them to take it by us giving them a short list or whatever. But we can't have 100 vendors, so I don't feel that's good. So we need to have some sort of rules and vetting. if we're going to do that.
Get on that
Okay.
starting tomorrow.
Anyone else?
Yeah, great. Very supportive of this. Love hearing that will start tomorrow. One potential idea. Yes, I understand. One potential idea is that for other MVLA out of district classes such as geometry, the students are actually required to prove that the class that they're taking satisfies all the requirements. So we could look into something similar to that, where the students are required to provide proof that this particular class satisfies the health requirements to the extent possible.
Just for the board, we will be looking at this policy again the second week of February. So we should have an administrative reg talking about what we will allow, what we won't allow, what we'll give credits for, what we will acknowledge students for taking. We should have that to you for the first board meeting in March.
That sounds awesome. Let's just make sure that the
We
administration.
only have one meeting in February and it's very early
Yeah,
on the
that's
9th.
right. Yeah. Yeah, just to echo what some folks said, making sure that the administrative change is fast enough to help students who are looking to take health this semester.
That's the,
And then I want to go back to what we talked about when we were having the presentation on the dashboard, that we wanted to have a little bit of a coordinated summary of the dashboard together with the board indicators or whatever, because we had talked about that. So we could kind of compare and see things together and also disaggregated. So that would be a nice report to have some other time.
as I mentioned, Ed Services did put together the big book of numbers.
Yeah, yeah.
All of the
I
data.
know, but then,
And
I mean, we'd be up all night, every night doing
yes,
that.
but perhaps we can get that book that's been developed with the board indicators that have been developed probably over the last decade and a half.
Mhm.
And then if there are things within that data set that the board would like to bring forward, then we can bring those
Yeah.
items so we can focus on those things during board meetings as opposed to go over that in a 4-hour meeting.
Right. Well, you know how a lot of things you can study with a quick study guide where, you have the whole book that describes everything, but then you have the quick study guide that gives you kind of the highlights,
Right.
just kind of a quick study guide with some of these and some of these that kind of coordinate together.
Okay, so just to clarify, this alternative credits policy will apply to all classes. It will not be just health. I just want to clarify that that's what you said, right?
Well, what I
Yeah.
heard is that Vadim is asking for an immediate decision regarding out-of-district health courses for 3 grade levels. And then when we come back, when we talk about math, science, English, in district versus out-of-district courses, those will all be part of the policy for all students.
Right. That is the clarification. Okay, great. Okay, so
Okay.
so I would like to, Asma,
Sorry, I
go
have one
ahead.
other thing that's maybe sort of related. I think it'd be good for us to get either a review, whether it's a presentation or in an update, Eric, from you around what our process is for approving courses. I think this sort of came up, has come up a couple of times in terms of my assumption is that board approves all courses. And what does that timeline look like when we have a pilot course? And just what's the process? Because I think we took quite some time when looking at ethnic studies, and I'm curious how that process compares to any future courses that we approve or courses we haven't approved yet. So I don't know if that's a presentation, an update, but there might be questions from the rest of the board as well around that.
That could be and done written in a written update.
Okay,
It is changing from where it was a year ago. Or a year and a half ago, somewhat with more oversight and more information that's going to the board.
So do we need something more in the way of a board policy and
No.
AR for that?
No, this.
No, it's just another thing that's on the side. I won't say on the
No,
side,
this,
but
this is an administrative task as far as how do we bring items to the board.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So I want to bring up the topic of the governance handbook, which I know we have discussed. I'll ask Eric to send you the, I think there's the CSBA professional governance standards for school boards, and a few governance handbooks from the district. And so we could either break it up into smaller study sessions or do a board retreat, and work on the whole thing. So which would you prefer?
get it done, you know, everybody read ahead of time, bring their notes or homework about it to the thing and then hash it out.
Okay, how does, okay, and how about the rest of you?
But if we can commit to doing some pre-work then. I think set some time limit on it and walk away with what we want to accomplish.
I'll share that last year. We had a workshop that was sort of like a board retreat that I think took about 3 or 4 hours. We did accomplish quite a bit, and I think nowadays we are sort of a more organized and united board that can operate much more effectively as opposed to a new group of people. So I do think that if we allocate 3 to 4 hours on a weekend, assuming folks can make it, we probably can make very, very significant progress, if not get it done. Ideally get it done. So I'd vote for that. So
Okay. All right. I can hear from you, but it sounds like we have a majority. So whatever you decide.
I think we just need a chimney that we can use like a, say like the Pope. So
Okay.
I also think that a single meeting, knowing that we need to accomplish things in that meeting rather than, I'm just worried, as I know what you're talking about, I'm worried that multiple meetings will mean we'll extend every single one of them. And at the end of the day, we'll spend even more time.
Okay. All right. So loud and clear, we want a board retreat. So I will send out some dates. I assume that weekends are what work for people, since we don't want to be here 4 hours in the evening, I assume. So I will send out some dates, and also I will need to work with, putting together some kind of draft. So that will take me a little time. So I will get back to you guys. Does anyone have any other?
I just have one ask. We should probably refrain for calling it a retreat. That sounds like some luxury vacation we're all going
Oh,
to.
no, that's a normal.
Can we call it a
it's-
board workshop? I think I would feel more comfortable.
That's a normal.
You add the word
Sure.
board in front of it, it cancels that concept of.
Yeah, yeah.
Talking about the
Board retreat, yeah.
public perception, right? Maybe the folks here know, but
Actually, board retreat is a very common term used for when a board discusses governance, because most people then know the board is actually discussing governance, and most people, I mean, there's maybe one person who might want to come, but most people then go, oh, okay, that's what the board is discussing. So it's a very common education jargon for that. So I think we should use that, because then people will go, oh, yeah, the board is discussing the governance handbook. And most people are, well, it's very important for us. I think a lot of people are not, super excited to read a handbook. I've personally read all the handbooks of all the school sites, but I don't think most people go around reading handbooks and that sort of thing. Yes. Anyway, okay. So anything else? Shall we move on? Okay. All right. We can move on to 12.2, communications correspondence.
Not tonight.
Okay, we move on to legislative updates.
We're just in the early stages of the legislative session. There's really nothing to report other than some new chairs of the education committees for the Assembly and the Senate.
All right, so then we move on to our next meeting, which is Monday, February 9th, right here at the MVLA District Office Boardroom at 7 p.m. And now we're actually going to resume to closed session, so we're not going to vote to adjourn the meeting.